This is episode 118 of our road to Unicum, and today I review the Lansen C. This is a tier 8 premium Swedish medium tank in World of Tanks, and we're going to look at a pair of battles. First up is this all tier 8 Kharkov, and the second battle is a tier 10 or tier 9 Ghost Town. Now, the biggest thing which I've been emphasizing to you guys is that getting to purple, getting to Unicum in World of Tanks is really about decision making, and a big part of making the right decisions is making the right reads and predicting things that are going to happen well before they happen, right? A lot of times you'll see me typing in chat or pinging the map, and I'll see things that are going to happen 30 seconds to 2 minutes before they actually happen. And a lot of that has to do with just looking at patterns, paying attention obviously to the mini-map, and if you play this game enough, you'll have played all the maps from both sides, standard mode and counter mode, whatever. And by experimenting, you can learn where to go, where not to go, and what's really effective, right? And certainly, if you're not sure, you can obviously watch videos from players like me, and that will help you learn things like that. So this spot here over by the F1 bush is a really powerful location, and there's a couple things that I like about it. It's got, I always talk about that trifecta. Hard cover, meaning this hill here, bushes, adjacent or connected to it, and a good field of view. So you can spot tanks that are in the back here over by B2 that are sniping from the hill. You can spot tanks that are trying to get into the bushes directly across from me, and you can shoot towards the east toward the city, right? And the really nice thing about these bushes is they're very wide. You can see it's about 3 to 4 times wider than the width of my tank. So if you want to avoid being too predictable, you can line up in the middle, to the left, to the right, somewhere in between, and make it hard for people to guess where you're going to be in terms of blind shooting. So you don't want to be too predictable. You can notice here I'm just shifting to the right about 1 tank width. So if they were aiming where I just was, they would miss, right? So our team's going to build a little bit of a deficit here, and I picked this particular replay because I make a couple reads that are crucial to carrying this particular match. This is a match by any reasonable perspective we should have lost, but we managed to claw this one back through some really good coordination the latter third of the match. Now, you want to be careful. I can come up to these bushes because the Lansen C, it has 3 really good things going for it. It's got really good camo, so even without Brothers in Arms, I'm looking at a camo value of over 34, which is excellent. And it has superb gun depression of 10 degrees, which I love. It's very comfortable for ridge fighting. And the alpha value of 320 is awesome. Now, that LTTB made a really simple but correctable mistake. He drove laterally across to get to the bush, where right in the moment where he was starting to get to the bush, his tank is sitting outside of it, so I can see him getting into the bush. Whereas what you should do when you're going up to a bush, a spotting location, come up underneath the bush like I'm doing, so that you don't give away your approach. So the LTTB had the right idea in terms of where to go, but his approach sucked, and as a consequence, he's now dead. Same thing for this T-44. It's too early to push up with this many tanks alive. He's pushed himself, down the 3 lane, but the problem is, and he's lucky we don't have anyone on the west side of city, because that would make it even worse for him, right? But he doesn't have an easy exit here, and obviously that RHM, the Rheinmetall Borsig, I've got to be careful because I don't want to get shot by him. So I shift over to the right a little bit, so I'm a little bit lower on the ridge. And so the T-44 just fired, so I have plenty of time to aim in a kill shot. And I did also aim it at his drive wheel, just in case for some reason I don't get the shot to pen, at least to keep him rooted, right, immobilized so we can finish him off. And then, again, I've been picking slightly different areas of this bush to get into just to not be too predictable. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to be parallel to these bushes, because then you're too wide of a target, and generally speaking you want to make yourself narrow and face directly toward the target. And our T-44 here, he's staring a little bit too much, so he's going to back himself right into the line of fire of the STA, and you've got to understand your exposures. The T-44, if he wants to fire at their T-44 that's in the trenches to the east over by the F5 area, he should come over to where I am. There's no reason for him to back up into the line of fire of that STA, right? But you'll see, and it's my teammates in the next game make far more egregious mistakes. It's like mind-numbingly frustrating to watch people throwing away their hit points, right? And I think, a big thing that I read a lot on the forums, and to be candid with you guys, it's mostly people who are unskilled at this game or below average. They claim that the game is rigged, right? And I think it would go against Wargaming's economic interest for the game to be rigged, right? But moreover, if you're implying that it's rigged against you, that means that it has to be rigged for other people, right? And when you look at things like statistics, most people are claiming that it's rigged are sub 50% win rate players, a lot of times sub 48, 49%, and sub 5k PR, right? And so I'll simply say what a lot of people mistake as being rigged or losing streaks, etc. They're not recognizing their accountability in preventing losing streaks from happening, right? So as an example, I'm a super Unicum. I lose 40% of my battles, right? The average player loses around 49% of their battles, right? If you consider 49% win, 49% loss, 2% for draws, or roughly speaking, right? But if you are a player who is sub 50% win rate, and especially if you are sub 5k PR, the personal rating, you are not good enough to consistently take the decisive actions that would enable your team to win, right? And because of this, you could end up in games where you're going to lose. Now, what I was trying to originally do is counter that T-44-100. He's pushed down the trench. I really don't like middle trench in situations like this. He can't exit. He can't do anything with his position. He can spot those tanks potentially that are to the west of him. You can see we got that huge clump on hill, too many campers, but it's really kind of a dead end there. I mean, it can be useful to spot tanks and then get away. This 416 does the right thing. He's actually coming over to potentially counter our tanks, and I stop here. Notice I just sit down, right, because I know I've got a kill shot out of my, and so I'm exposed inside of my tank. This tank effectively doesn't have any meaningful armor. You'll occasionally get a troll bounce here or there, but for all intents and purposes, you should just treat the armor like it's garbage, because it is. Right, in a tank like this, the nice thing is it has, even though the top speed is limited at 50, because it only weighs like 24 metric tons, it is pretty agile in terms of its mobility. Right, that was a hard stopping moment there. The IS-22, like obviously, I just got spotted. He has a general idea where I am. I didn't know that he was there. And what I'd ideally like to do is paint the edge of the map. So go down like the 9 or 0 lane. Make sure that none of those tanks are behind me, that they're in front of me. And obviously against a tank like the E75, I'll outspot him all day long because I've got that really good camo, while he does not. Now, the only thing that limits this tank in terms of playing the vision control or vision games is the fact that the view range is 380 meters, which means that you can't get to 445 meters of view range unless you have a bunch of things. So you would have to have, without food, you would have to have brothers in arms, vents, situational awareness, and recon. Now, I don't have recon or BIA because this crew's not good enough. That's why I'm sitting here having to run food. I would prefer not to run food because it's expensive, and if you get set on fire, it's beyond crippling. But I don't have a crew that's good enough to run brothers in arms and situational awareness, and that was hilarious. Sophia just saved me there by ramming that Ramatab Borsig. I actually came around the corner too much, not realizing. I thought that TD was facing toward Sophia, but instead the Ramatab was aiming towards me, and Sophia rammed that player as they were taking their shot and caused that shot to sail wide, which was just huge. Okay, so our last TD has died. They've got a hit point advantage on us. Like, they have almost, I think, double the hit points that we do. And so this is one of the situations where making the right read, the right prediction, is absolutely critical. So I'm going to assume that their players are going to head towards our cap. Why? Because players tend to do it, and it's stupid. And all we need them to do is send only one of their tanks toward cap, and then we can pick them off. And so I knocked down that tree, some very intentional guarding diagonally to the left, so I can now set up shop if they push into the cap. This tree knockdown creates a perfect bush placement for me to get the first shot advantage over and over. And they might be able to guess where I am. I was sitting there typing to my platoon mate, probably that caused me to miss an opportunity to shoot the IS-6 when he crossed, but we know exactly where he is now, right? And he will not spot me until I fire because he doesn't have the vision for it. I've got great camo. I put the bush in the right place. And this is what I mean about making the right reads, right? And because I had spotted the T-44-100 coming in, it allows me to set up for the first shot advantage, on that fully exposed side of that T-44. And I do have a shot here on that IS-6. It really needs to go where I'm aiming it, because the IS-6, it's one of those tanks which has aged terribly. You know, one of those preferential matchmaking tanks that only gets tier 8 or tier 9 matchmaking. But the armor layout is actually pretty good. I don't understand why that T-44 was, peeking out so much. One thing which Sophia is doing, which I'm not a big fan, is coming up through the trench. The problem with the trench is that it's so close. In order for Sophia to have a shot, Sophia needs to move up close enough where they will spot her due to the nearness of distance, even that IS-6, right? And this is something which is a bit unfortunate here, that IS-6 is spamming HE. He takes out one of my crew members, I burn my first aid kit, and he hits me again and takes out my commander. Now, you could definitely argue he should have been firing AP, right? Because I don't have meaningful armor, and he might have killed me already had he been doing so, but, people are really dumb when it comes to ammo selection in terms of, over firing high explosive. And so these guys, you can see that IS-6 is aiming to my right now. I don't have a shot. I don't want to drive around the rock. They know where Sophia is, and it looks like Sophia is now one shot. But really the smart play here is to get up on the hill over by H3. Why? A few things. So I skipped ahead here because I basically can't peek while my commander is dead, and just have to be patient. We know exactly where they are. They can't go anywhere. So once the first aid kit is up, it's been so long. I haven't peeked intentionally because I don't want to get, blind shot by that IS-6, because any HE that hits me will kill me, right? But the main power behind Sophia's position up on that hill is that on the east side of the hill is a ring of bushes, a long north-south vertical stretch of bushes where Sophia can snipe from. Right, and plus Sophia is perpendicular to me, really almost on the other, almost 180 degrees on the other side of me. So, that shot I took on the side, like Sophia's almost looking at the rear of that IS-6. So that was a well-placed kill shot. Now we just got to be patient. Both of us are one-shottable. The T-44 is two-shottable. We just need to, be patient, working together. And the biggest mistake I see people making in the situation that I have with my platoon mate is they go in serially, sequentially. They go in one at a time, get picked off, and then end up throwing the game. So I don't want to cross over the open. It's too much exposed ground. That would be stupid. When Sophia sets up shop close enough, what I'm going to do is flex around clockwise around these rocks to see if I can get a shot. The main thing is I don't want to peek if that person is already pre-aiming in my direction, because I'm going to be close enough now that I'm going to get spotted just due to the distance. There's no bush on this side. Right, but once Sophia gets pretty close there and there's that spotting, I can assume that person is aware of Sophia. You can see that the gun barrel is just pointed to my left, and so I'm going to be able to take these shots. Really, I shouldn't move back in this particular case because there's nobody else that can fire on us. That gun is still pointing away from me. Matter of fact, that turret of the T-44 is pointing away from me. And again, looking back this now, I shouldn't have pulled back because I can see if that turret ends up spinning around to face me, I'll see the gun barrel turning sideways before it even gets pointed in my hemisphere. So, eventually one of these shots will land. Sophia actually goes around those rocks and then finishes that player off. And that TS5 was an absolute jackass, making racist comments. And, I don't make political discourse on my channel, but I'll just simply say, people who are that small-minded, it's idiotic, right? The pigmentation of your skin has no bearing on your intelligence or your worth as a person. What you say and what you do is what matters. People aren't born racist. People are, taught to be racist. And, I hope the vast majority of you, have a kind of a broader, well-educated perspective. But I don't know, it was funny because some people were complaining, lots of people have complained that World of Tanks chat is toxic. And it's like every PvP game I have ever played, even PvE, but every PvP game I've ever played, people bitch and rail at each other. And I don't necessarily mind that at such. People get frustrated. I get super salty and irritated with people when they're being tremendously dumb and making mistakes and just not helping. But, to get to racist remarks, discriminatory remarks is just absolutely uncalled for. Okay, so this particular match, this is really interesting. I'm actually facing a Unicum platoon that is top tier from Reddit, and I know Jack Attack, a good player, And so, you can see there in the chat, I'm already anticipating where they're going to be. I called it that they're going to be on the one line, both their AMX 30, which is Jack Attacka, as well as their UDES 16. And so, obviously it's not fun being in a situation where I'm not top tier and facing a top tier Unicum platoon, but I am going to scrap and do everything I can to give my team the best chance to win. So I haven't been spotted yet. And, part of that's just, being certain of using good approach lanes, using the bushes. I could blind fire, but I don't really want to, because then they'll know that the UDES 16 should know that I'm here. If they've got the hit log turned up, they can see that they were shot by the Lansen C, And the other thing, I used to play the 9-0 lanes in this map. I'll do it in light tanks to go down that long vertical bush row in 9, but for a medium tank, this is especially one that has the combination of good camo and good gun depression, this is a far better place to be. Now, there's the first, insanely stupid mistake of the match. Our UDES 16 just presses the W key onto the one lane and gets absolutely smashed, and that's just stupid. It's way too early to do it, and then our T69 follows that UDES mistake by poking up Bear over the ridge and losing half of his HP for nothing. Right, and the bush that I was sitting in was actually wide enough. He could have pulled into it, and if he tried to pull in, I would have given him room, right? There's no reason not to share it. I mean, obviously I need to be careful because his camo is not as good as mine. If he's on my right and he gets spotted, that's okay. He'll get shot at from the middle of the map from the SU-130 PM. I just need to be careful if he tries to pull into the bushes from my left, because if he's sitting to the left of me and he gets spotted, and people diagonally to the right of us where the UDES 16 or SU-130 PM are try to fire at him, it can hit me. Right, but the main thing to notice here, I'm only exposing the very top of my turret over those bushes, and I'm not even in a position where I can get my gun down to shoot at them. But I'm doing just enough to spot them. Because here's the thing, if their AMX 30 is sitting in the bush directly across from me, neither of us is going to see the other unless we're moving. Or if one of us fires, right? But the main thing I'm trying to do here is to really stall out their push west and to get those Unicum mediums punished whenever possible with good vision, right? Okay, so we can see that UDES 16, then our Indian Panzer is doing the same mistake that our UDES 16 and our T69, now he's peeking Bear over the ridge. And, there's no reason to do so because there's not anything that we can shoot. He'll give away his location. He's potentially artable. And this is what I mean. It's people are they'll say things like the game is rigged. It's no, actually, our team just made a series of phenomenally stupid decisions that collectively ended up in a loss, right? Almost everything that happens in this game can be explained rationally if you pay attention to the minimap and you consider the game flow. Now, here's part of the big mistake with the Indian Panzer, right? He's mistaking motion for action, right? Never confuse motion for action. So he moved up. Presumably he'll say later, I was trying to spot. It's well, you're trying to spot tanks that are going to outspot you because they're behind bushes in a ridge, right? And if the Indian Panzer had stayed where it was, he, like me, could have gotten multiple shots into the Standard B, the T-54 E1, right? He could have been working his gun. But instead, now he's pushed up, and now he's choosing damage over position. He's way overexposed around the side of that rock. He doesn't even need to be peeking out that far. And giving up, the vast majority of his hit points. All right, and this is going to matter because, this is a 15-minute match. We are only 5 minutes in. And the key thing you got to do is, yes, you want to keep your gun active, right? And I've done that. I've already, dealt 1,300 damage, and I've spotted for 1,000, right? But you want to maintain a sufficient number of hit points that they aren't encouraged to push you. Because once tanks are in a one-shot position, people are going to look at you like a dog looks at a piece of steak, right? They're just going to go right after you, especially, if they've been smart about preserving their hit points. Okay, so their T-30 is starting to peek over the ridge. Again, I don't need to fire. I'm spotting them. If they come up high enough where I think I'm going to have a shot, then yes, I will move up just a little bit more. And in this case here, so I took out one of the members of that Unicum platoon. All right, that was huge. I actually contributed 100% of the damage on him. I hit him 3 times, and the rest of his hit points were due to my spotting damage. So this is really good so far. And I've only taken a slight splash of damage from their M53. One thing earlier when I got shot at by their arty is because I was backed away too far from the ridge. The closer you are to the ridge, the safer you are in terms of being artyable, right? And you can see this kind of tree to my right, this Joshua-looking tree. If you want to avoid getting artied, you to some extent want to be on the upslope, right? Not in the very bottom of the hill because they can hit you. And the good thing is the T-30, I've hit him twice coming in. Our T-69 is pushed forward too much, right? And so he just got wrecked, which sucks for me because now the AMX-30 has broken my position. He's all the way fully behind me, and that's really bad. I need to get out of here. So up to this point, I've been doing a really good job conserving my hit points, and then I get absolutely nailed by Artie, which sucks. It was like for over 800 damage, and at this point here, I didn't think Jack Attack was going to come down. I was actually ready. Let me put it this way. I didn't know whether he was going to push. I obviously had my turret pre-aimed, and he literally fired maybe a tenth of a second before I did, and he took me out. Right, and the sad thing is that is the crucial turning point in this match. Right, up to that point, I had managed to stall them successfully in the 1-2 lane and to limit what their Unicum platoon was able to do. But now, see that shot? That's probably from Jack Attacka, and yes, the Moistion just shot the idiot 210 who just drove by him. But the Moistion is in a position where he's going to get farmed by the AMX-30, and he doesn't have any prayer of spotting them because he's too far away. Doesn't have he basically has no camo to speak of, right? And so what you're going to watch here, and this is one of these things. It's enormously frustrating. The thing is, like, if you want to get really good at this game, you have to pay attention not just to what you're doing, where the enemies are, but also where your friendlies are, and to see the relative strengths and opportunities and threats based on that deployment, and also looking at the map, thinking rationally, where will people go that makes sense. Right, but what I really want to highlight here is the mistake that multiple players on our team do. Like right here, this T-54E1 is going after that Pershing like he's a leprechaun sitting on a pot of gold. Right, that Pershing's not doing anything to anyone. He had less than 200 hit points. He's not a very fast tank. He's got crappy armor. So our T-54E1 basically sacrifices like 1,200 of his hit points, or over 1,000 hit points to deal 200 damage. Completely like nonsensical, right? And then this next section here, so the IS-3 and the SU end up spotting each other. Jagdtiger makes another really nice shot. And so this is a crucial part of the match. The AMX-30 clearly hasn't left. He has been shooting our tanks that keep stupidly exiting the southwest side of the city who have no camo, right? And all our IS-3 needs to do, if he drives north through the bush line on the 9 lane, we will win this game, right? The AMX-30 can't exit where he is because he doesn't know where the Jagdtiger is. Our Jagdtiger had actually rotated onto the northern part of the shelf, kind of northeast of where he is right now. But Jack Attacka doesn't know that. He has to assume that the Jagdtiger is sitting exactly where he is now, and if Jack Attacka takes his AMX-30 away from where he is, that the Jagdtiger will have the first spot for shot advantage because he's stationary and he's looking in Jack Attacka's direction, right? But I actually called out in chat to this IS-3. I was just really begging him to please go north on the east side of the map. And I know some people are worried, well, he'll get outspotted by Artie. If he drives through the bush line, it's pretty likely he'll get close to them before they spot him, right? And so it's funny, I actually called out in chat, you're going to die in the next 20 seconds, and then sure enough, this IS-3 is going to die pretty much exactly when I called it, right? And so, is there anything that I can do about it? No. I mean, I was beseeching multiple players on this team about where to go and what to think about. They didn't listen. I don't know either if they just have chat turned off, or they can't multitask, or they just, they don't have the last spotted location, which, I talked about that in my settings video. Everyone should turn that on because the game client will remember better than you. Like, take that work off of your shoulders and let the game client track that for you. Right, our Jagdtiger makes a great shot. Jagdtiger actually played a really good game. But if you looked at what happened on the 1 lane, we were doing great, except our Udez 16 suicided, threw away his hit points. The Indian Panzer got impatient, and he was complaining in chat at some point after he died. I was trying to spot for you guys. It's like, well, you were spotting in the most stupid way possible, right? And you got farmed, and then our T-69 lost half of his hit points by going up over the ridge, and then when their T-30 came, he rushed to that corner, which makes no sense because the T-30 could have one-shot him for his remaining hit points. Right, so the T-69 ended up like throwing away his hit points too, and then our guys at the end of the match don't get on the cap fast enough for it to mathematically even be possible. Right, and I was telling them, like, you either both go to the cap and you cap, or you go after the enemy tanks. But if you get on the cap too late, that's a complete waste. We ended up drawing this match, you know, and when the match started, I thought there was a high probability that we would not win based on who was on the other side, but I effectively limited them, you know, and actually we had some good chatting about this afterwards, and I was just trying to give them a hard time. But like I said, the game's not rigged. People need to learn to think better in this game and to make good decisions, rational decisions, and understanding, you know, what to do. And some of what, you know, situations like what to do is not totally obvious. And it takes a lot of trial and error where you can look at, you know, Unicum channels, people like me, because I'll tell you exactly how I think in situations and why. Because your ability to think in real time and to problem solve, like that bush that I knocked down in Kharkov next to the rocks so that we could defend our cap, I'd never been in that position before, but I knew enough of the game mechanics to see it as an opportunity. And that's the type of decision making that wins games. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I know I both talked quite a bit about the Lansen and talked about Unicum decision making in general. So let me know your thoughts on the Lansen and any questions or feedback you have. Take care.